stuck in a place beyond all time. Oh, stuck in a place beyond all time. Is there any time?
Hi. I didn't exactly want to make this, but I was left with a lack of other options. The owner of this place. They will remain and will always be unnamed. But they're not taking my suggestions and concerns seriously. Things are changing, which is antithetical to the function of this place. We exist out of time for a reason, so that the stories we hold here, the realities we hold here, do not get corrupted. My hair has grown, which will seem insignificant to you, but it leaves two options, neither of which are good. Either I'm aging and being affected by time, or the library is. If the library is, then I feel it's paramount to start cataloguing these realities. And if I'm aging, then I'd like myself to be known before I just become another skeleton rotting away in this place. Anyways, let's get to the point of this. I'm going to be reading and archiving realities. The first one is entitled Sparkle.
Welcome to The Library Beyond Time, Episode 1, Sparkle. Created and written by Ellis Corday. Starring Kobe Sechi as the storyteller. Music by Paul Clark.
Emberville was a small town with even smaller problems. Up until today, its biggest controversy was a missing sheep. Today, however, that was all going to change. Marcus Hartley, a man with a monotonous life. He'd wake up at 8 a.m, walk to the local corner store, start work, go back home, and sleep. Again and again, the exact same day. Marcus wasn't happy with his life, but that wasn't what he was aiming for. He just wanted to live, nothing more. It was the weekend. Marcus would usually wake up, make himself some eggs and toast, and maybe feel an ounce of happiness. But today, when Marcus opened his fridge, the eggs were different. Marcus carefully opened the carton he'd bought yesterday. They were fine yesterday, but as he opened them, he saw something incredibly strange. They had hatched. But what had hatched wasn't alive, at least not now. Leaking out from the now cracked eggshells were bones, covered in lime green ooze and accompanied by a sickly sweet smell. Too many bones for each egg, overflowing in vast amounts. Marcus quickly closed the carton and took a step back, barely holding himself from gagging. Fuck, Marcus muttered as he thought over what to do. Must just be a faulty order, he told himself. No need to make a big deal out of it. Just throw them away and get a new lot. Marcus closed the fridge, ignoring the eggs for now. He went to the front door, loosely threw on his favorite jacket, and left the house, finally ready to get the day started. It was an unbearably cold day, the usual for this time of year. But Marcus wasn't dressed for that. He'd always wear the same outfit all year round, because it worked. This month he was maybe pushing it, but he didn't like making changes, however minor they were. The route he took to the corner store wasn't the most efficient, but it was quiet. He enjoyed the lack of others. Let him think. Today he was caught up in it, mostly thinking about the bones. He was so deep in it that he didn't see what was coming right for him. Barreling towards him from the sky above him was a sparkle, ever-changing, iridescent, and barely perceptible to the naked eye. It was drawn to Marcus, sensed the dullness. The sparkle slowed down now, wanted its approach to appear peaceful, wanted him to accept it, welcome its presence, so that the transfer was easier. Marcus noticed it now, this beautiful speck floating into his view. He put his hand out, collecting it like a snowflake. Laying in Marcus's hand was the sparkle, a bubbling matter that couldn't hold its form. It bended in on itself, broke laws. It was utterly alien. Marcus looked at it with curiosity as he lifted his index finger towards the thing. As his finger got close to it, the sparkle decided to strike. "Ah, shit!" Marcus exclaimed as the sparkle launched into his finger. It was gone in a second, appearing in its place, a prick of blood. He started to feel faint. His vision started to blur. He was at the shop now. Dazed, confused, Marcus stood outside the corner store not knowing what to do or how he got here. He looked around, totally lost, his head throbbing, his vision hazy. Then he dropped. As Marcus regained consciousness, he realized he was no longer outside. He was back in his apartment. The throbbing had stopped, but he still felt off. Nothing physically was wrong, but his mind had been shattered into pieces. He was lying in bed. How did he get here? He didn't remember walking home. Marcus hesitantly left the bed. Marcus tried to ignore the gaps in his memory. There were more pressing matters. He was filled with a hunger. He seemingly hadn't eaten anything the whole day. It was evening now, so he took his tired body and heaved it to the kitchen. He opened the fridge, forgetting about the curious carton of rotten eggs. But there weren't rotten eggs. There never were. Instead, Marcus was looking at the most perfect carton of eggs he'd ever seen. So he grabbed them and haphazardly threw them on the hob. The hunger was growing now. Levels of hunger Marcus had never felt. Not just in level, but in type. The hunger didn't feel human. It felt primal. He needed to feed. The eggs were done now. Marcus didn't bother plating up the eggs. He simply grabbed them with his hands and shoved them in his mouth. The second he attempted to swallow them, he vomited. His mouth felt as if it were filled with tar as a rotten stench made its way into his nose. He could barely breathe as he tried to expel the substance, reaching his hand to the back of his throat to make himself vomit. He finally got the release he was wanting, but eggs were not what came up. It was instead a constant flow of rippling black ooze and small bones. Too much. There was more inside him that he needed out. Then a compulsion started building. As he looked at the abomination before him, he felt something deep within him. The vomiting stopped. The hunger returned. Marcus began salivating as his eyes lingered on his creation. He couldn't stop himself. His mind was screaming at him to stop, but his body slowly went on its hands and knees. He pressed his mouth against the vomit and started sucking. His body needed this. It reveled in every delicious mouthful of vomit it could consume. It enjoyed how the ooze slid down its throat and how the bones scraped against the roof of its mouth. Marcus hated every second. It kept consuming and consuming, Marcus's stomach getting filled more and more with his own vomit. It kept going until it reached the center of the pile. Inside it was something that made Marcus's conscience finally push through and stop. Marcus, mouth filled with bile and bones dripping out the corner of his mouth, was looking at a hand. A human hand. Marcus vomited, a normal vomit. That of disgust rather than need. He stared at the hand, frozen in fear. What had he just done? What did he do? What was he? He reached out to the hand and came to a realization. He was looking at his own hand, the same one that was reaching out towards it. The exact same one. Marcus scrambled to his feet and rushed out the front door. Marcus cried as he started scooping the substance out of his mouth. He was panicked. He could feel it inside him still. He glanced at his hands, covered in the rotting ooze. His mouth was wet with desire. He snapped his eyes closed. He rushed back inside and into the bathroom. He placed his mouth under the tap and just allowed it to fill him. He needed to cleanse himself. He stayed in that position for 10 minutes until he finally felt clean. He turned the tap off and stared at himself in the mirror. He was looking at a broken man. Mouth stained black, eyes bloodshot from crying, the tips of his hair soggy from vomit. He tried to keep himself together. He kept composed as he thought through the situation. He started backtracking. Where did it all start? The eggs, the sparkle, the blackouts, the vomit, the hand. Marcus looked at his hand, the same hand that came out of his mouth. He examined it and started noticing the tiny imperfections. His index finger was too long. His knuckles were sticking out too much. His skin was rippling barely perceivable, like raindrops in the ocean. Then his index finger twitched. He didn't do it. He stumbled backwards, fear rising inside him. His finger moved more as it started bending itself backwards. Marcus couldn't feel a thing. No pain, even when the finger started reaching its limit. Marcus quickly reached out, restraining his own finger. Maybe it wasn't his anymore. He could feel it wriggling in his hand, trying to get free. Marcus left the bathroom in search for something to tie his hands up. But when he left, he found... Okay, No! Shit! Oh, it's gone. Okay. Okay, so the words are gone. I don't know why, but it just stopped. I've read this before and they were there before. Marcus is meant to go back into the kitchen and the ooze is gone. But that didn't happen. Oh, what have I done? They're gonna kill me. Okay. I need to fix this. This is gonna be it for now. Hopefully no one is even hearing this. Whenever this is fixed though, I will be back to finish this off. Bye.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for listening to our first episode. If you would like to vote on what happens next, head to patreon.com/The Library Beyond Time.